Welcome to a new podcast where we're breaking through and breaking it down with a new girl. Your host, Dawn Piercy. Welcome to a new podcast. My name is Dawn Piercy and I am your host. Tonight I am bringing you King Vega. He is a music artist and the CEO of VMG, which is the Vampire Musik Group label. Now I bring you King Vega. Welcome to a new podcast and thank you for being a new guest. How are you tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the opportunity. I'm good.
Absolutely. Now, from what I've gathered and from what I've read about you, in 1997, you lost your childhood best friend to an act, sadly, of street violence. I'm so sorry for your loss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, it said that it was the aggression, the hood mentality, and the disrespect for anything less than legit, and all the themes that were present in much of the days of new hip hop that you could most easily identify with at that time. Tell us how that created an avenue for you to voice your frustration that you felt over the loss of your best friend and how he drove you to write your first song.
Well, basically, where I'm from in Syracuse, New York, a project complex called the Bricks, and it's a pretty it's hell. It's a pretty terrible place. But my best friend, who's actually my cousin, Larry Lewis, who's he actually started me doing music when we were like 13 years old. He was like doing music and stuff like that. I wasn't. I used to write like poetry and stuff like that, but I never even considered writing music until he ended up got people like KRS-One and MC Shan and people like that. And he had this idea that we should start doing music. So I didn't really take him seriously or whatever. So one day I did, and then that's how I started. And then like he was like one of those kind of kids that were like he was like the coolest dude in the world. Like he was like, I don't even think he's ever been in a fist fight in his whole life. Like everybody liked him, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he ended up going to this house party, and the house party that he went to was on the other side of town. And I guess when like the people there found out where he was from, they killed him. So me and our community and family and friends losing him based off of that, someone who was like so important to us. Mind you, I'm older than him, and like everything I learned is from him. That's where pretty much the aggression came from, and I guess the passion also. And it all basically came from that, just dealing with that situation and going with our juvenile ways of how we decided to handle what happened.
Right.
That's where the aggression came from. That was, just people who was young, 15, 16, 17 years old, playing a grown man's game and thinking we knew what it was at the time when we actually really didn't. So that's where it pretty much derived from. And I just kept that passion. I don't do any music or release any music until I go to his graveyard and play it for him first, still to this day.
I just got chills all over. That's deep. That's really deep. Now, in addition to the legacy that Larry left behind, your uncle, former DJ Prembe, introduced you to the ins and outs of the music industry and the idiosyncrasies of the establishing an independent record label. Tell us about that and how that came about for you.
I grew up in the house with my grandmother and my uncle. We call each other brothers because he's only several years older than me. But he was a DJ. He was like the biggest DJ in Syracuse at that particular time. He used to DJ for a place called Gardenia's, and Gardenia's was like the place where all of the rap stars came. The Rakims, the EPMDs, the, you know what I mean, the KRS ones. So he was always amongst those kind of people. Mind you, at this time, I wasn't even thinking about being in music. My cousin Larry was, my uncle was the DJ. Like, I wasn't really thinking about it. So to make a long story short, I was, living in the house with a DJ. There's music and practice with music going on pretty
Right.
much all day, every day. You know what I'm saying? And my grandmother, even though she wasn't, into hip hop or anything like that, she allowed him to do whatever he wanted. As long as he stayed in the house, she didn't care. She'd rather be in the house, have him in the house making all that noise, what she called it, and have him out in the middle of our neighborhood doing whatever. So basically, after I finally first started writing and doing music or just playing around with it, he was actually the first person that I actually let hear the first verse that I wrote that Larry actually got me to write. And the first thing he said to me after I said the verse to him was, "Who wrote that?" And then I told him that I did, and he didn't believe me, and we argued. And that's how I knew that I was on to something, because he didn't believe I wrote it.
Wow.
And so I basically followed behind my cousin Larry as far as writing and creating songs and things like that. My uncle Prim, he was actually also the manager of a guy by the name of Rain King and Khalid Bey, who actually wrote the song Hip Hop Parade that
Oh, I love that song.
Naughty by Nature stole from them.
Oh.
He was actually their DJ and their manager. They went and performed that song in Virginia, I think it was at the time. And I guess one of their managers was there. He heard the song, he took it back to them. And that was the end of that story. Wow. So that's basically how he started learning, how they decided to start learning the business side of music, because that happened. And they never recovered from that. And then that's when he started pouring that information into me.
Now, tell us about Vampire Music Group. How long ago did you establish that? And you've got to tell our listeners what VAMP stands for, because I've never heard it described like that, and I absolutely loved it.
Vampire Music Group was actually originally established by my cousin Larry. It's just something that I took. I took the moniker of it a few years ago. I did this song for the Syracuse basketball team called the Bayheim Anthem, and they was playing the song at all of the games, and I used that song to pretty much kick off the attention to Vampire Music Group. Vampire Music Group was basically started by him, but it was basically more around, just being a vampire, being a hustler at night, everybody up at night while everybody's sleeping, getting money. So I basically took that moniker or whatever have you from that name, and I flipped it around. And even though I'm telling the story about where we come from and how we grew up and things that I go through in my particular life, I flipped it around and made that positive. VAMP, V-A-M-P, stands for Vision, Ambition, Mission equals Progress.
I love it. Love it. Now, tell us about your special effects, your vampire effects in your music videos. I absolutely love that. Tell us about your effects. You got to.
Well, basically, it's just like me trying to create, how when you think about the Wu-Tang Clan, you think about the old Chinese movies and things of that nature. You think about Rockefeller Records. You think about the old mafia bosses and things like that. Things that goes along with the niche of their business. As far as Vampire Music Group, I created those effects, and along with the tag, which is done by a good friend of mine by the name of Christine Jackson. She's also a DJ herself. We created that to go along with with our niche, and it kind of helps illuminate our story, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So we use like a lot of in the videos. I like to use like a lot of flashing lights,
Yeah.
things like that. Just different things that vampires would do if it was in like a movie or what
Right.
have. And then my job is our job, everybody that's, that rock with Vent Mob, our job is to create around that.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow, even though, regardless of whatever particular story we may be telling at that time, I always try to have a message in that story, one that's positive. And that's basically what VMG Vent Mob is all about, what we trying to do.
That's awesome. Because here at A New Podcast, one of the things that I try to do is always have the most positive and inspirational people on my show that have been through it and are successful and doing what they're doing, and your music. I absolutely loved your music videos. And I was like, okay, he absolutely needs to be a new guest. So
Well, I really thank you for that.
absolutely. Now, for our listeners, where do they go to follow you and keep up with your latest videos and all that kind of stuff that you've got going on?
You can go to my Instagram page, which is at King Vega VMG. Same thing with Twitter at King Vega VMG. Or you can go to my website, which is King Vega at Wix.com.
Okay.
Or you can follow me on Facebook at King Vega. Or my YouTube is also King Vega. Everything is all
And
pretty much the same.
you're also on sharedsuccessglobal.com/King Vega.
And I'm also on,
The marketplace.
yeah,
Yes. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
sharedsuccessglobal.com/marketplace/King Vega. Follow him. You want to. You've got to check out his music videos. And he's.
There's a fake King Vega out there too. Make sure y'all look for the pretty one, the guy with the great grin. That's me. That
Well, I wanted to thank you for being a guest on A New Podcast.
quickly, I'd like to just tell you thank you for the opportunity to have the interview on your podcast. I'd like to give a huge, huge, huge shout out to the one and only Tiffany Gaines. I'd like to give a shout out to my Vent Mob crew, my cousin Martino Storm, who's like has the most angelic voice there is God ever gave a human being. You hear him on a lot of my music coming soon. He is also on a lot of my music right now. I got a lot of stuff on Dat Piff, things of that nature. And I just want to give a shout out to, you and everybody that's listening, everybody that's on their grind. You know what I'm saying? And I just want to let everybody know, do everything in your power, no matter what it is you have to do, to take the word can't out of your brain and out of your vocabulary. I'm a guy that's got 10 years inside of prison, and I was told I can't by everybody that I was around, including some family members. And I am.
Amen.
And that's all I want to say.
Amen to that. Well, you definitely have a great and powerful, positive story, and this has been A New Podcast.